Remember the feeling when it's the second year transition into a new stage of your life and you suddenly start questioning absolutely everything about your life? That's the topic of today. I do have that feeling throughout different periods in my life. First year I went studying abroad, I was not even 15. And I remember everything was peachy, life was good, and you have all these new experiences, new friends, and new places to explore. But as I settled down into the second year, I started wondering, have I made the right decisions? What the hell am I doing? And here I am now, second year into adulting really hard, getting accustomed to a new city, getting a real job out of college, and just starting to ask the same old question, am I happy now? Let's get into it. First point, the single most often talked about topic of entering adulthood is, well, obviously, financial stability.
Have you paid off your student loan? Have you maxed out your 401ks? Have you learned about the mega backdoor? Have you, opened many lines of credits? How's your credit score and all of that?
In the beginning, I was super annoyed with all of these unnecessarily complicated life hacks and finances. I don't understand why people have to think about retirement when they're still young and alive. But as I slowly get to learn about the FIRE movement, learn about the nature of work in a capitalistic society, I started to realize that, this is just like a game, like a Monopoly that everyone has to play. I wouldn't say that I fully subscribe to the ideology of FIRE, which is financially independent, retire early, but I do love the idea about independence. I just can't imagine or stand the idea of toiling away at my desk writing software when I hit 60. There are so many things that I am passionate about that I really want to explore, is what I'm saying. Having the financial independence doesn't mean that I'm just going to lie on my couch and watch TV and slack all day. Instead, what it means is that I have the financial freedom to do whatever the heck I'd like to, without having the corporate deadline looming over my head all the time. That indeed is a life to yearn for, don't you think? While that's obviously still quite a long way ahead, I do have to acknowledge the privilege that I have being a software engineer, in this coveted profession, which allowed me to work remotely with relative comfort at my standing desk without getting laid off, still have a comfortable pay, and get to pay off all my debt just a couple of months into my career, afford a decent living in a pretty high cost of living city, and able to make plenty of investments with my savings along the way, even when humanity was hit by a global pandemic. This is something that I should never complain about, unlike those people on Blind who always say that we get paid peanuts. So, I would say in terms of finances, I'm doing decently okay. So moving on to the second topic. It's a topic that I really think is a lot more important in a way, but way less discussed in public discourse. That is mental health and mental stability. A lot of my friends have asked me this question of why do you always look so happy? It looks like you're always so carefree, which is completely untrue, but I guess that's the impression that I tend to give people around me. Curious about others, but seldom talk about myself and my own feeling, which is obviously not healthy, but that's something that I try to improve on. It's kind of like all those Instagram feeds where everyone is having their shiniest moment, the creme de la creme of their personal life. But since this is a special vlog about self-care and self-reflection, I want to at least confess that it's been really hard to control my emotion for the past 2 years or so. I was just about to make new friends and attend all the social and networking events, and I thought that, I could start a new life in this new city. And then it's just all gone, all disappeared because of the pandemic, which honestly makes me miss college quite a lot. I used to sit in the dining hall for hours on end and different groups of friends would just come and go and they talk about different topics. It's, it's very liberal artsy sort of things. But after college, I feel like it's been really hard to find a group of friends who I feel comfortable discussing these sort of things, I feel very stifled. Well, someone explained to me, and I thought this is very interesting, that back in college or even earlier, during our formal education years, it is relatively easier to make friends because we were literally forced in sort of social situations where you're in classroom, you're in a dining hall, you're in clubs, you're doing parties, you're just forced into these sort of situations because of this common platform. You get to meet people, you get to see these people with relatively little effort on a daily basis, and so that's when you bond and form relationships. But as we enter adulthood, everyone starts to have different priorities, right? Whether it's about their work, promotions, family, you realize that, you have to make a much more conscientious effort to keep in touch with your friends. Plus, during the pandemic, you literally don't meet anyone. Honestly, last year, there were weeks on end that I don't see any living human being at all. So I guess to sum up, this point about mental health. It's very invisible and intangible, just like a virus. It's like COVID. Like if you don't consciously observe your mental state, gradually and slowly you will slip down that path of darkness, and that is very dangerous. But moving on to the third point and the very last point, that is about career. Over the past 2 years, I've heard two diametrically different viewpoints towards careers and passion. On the one hand, we've got the hustlers who switch teams and switch companies and do side hustles all the time. Like they're just like juggling between different things all the time and trying really hard to figure out what it is that they want to do in life. And on the other hand, my ex-manager actually gave me this advice that there is not really such a thing as an intrinsic, inborn passion. Instead, you just get to learn a lot on the job, you get better at it, and you start to accomplish something really big, and then people start trusting you, appreciate you, and people start valuing your output. And then slowly you get that sense of achievement, and then you build this sense of passion over time. So you grow passion out of doing things. To be honest, my personal belief used to be, used to align more towards the hustler's idea, right? Because I am, intrinsically liberal arts kind of person, liberal artsy kind of person. So I'm like interested in so many different kinds of things. So I want to do so many different kinds of things. I want to do music. I want to make videos. I want to make content. At the same time, I want to do something about tech. There's just so many things in my mind that I just can't get my head around it. But the second point about not having this thing as an intrinsic passion really, hit me hard. And I thought about it quite a lot. And I thought that there's some truism in that alternative theory where, it makes sense that a lot of people probably don't know what is their passion and probably doesn't even really matter that much. If you find one thing, dedicate your life to it, work really hard on it, eventually you might really love it. So it's a cool idea. However, after giving it a lot of thoughts, over the past 18 months of the pandemic and the quarantine, I think I've got some rough ideas that I would like to share with you all. Have you heard of the recent news that Facebook recently changed their name to Meta? Recently, there's a big wave of mainstream media pushing this idea of Metaverse, which is not a new idea. It's been in existence for maybe over 100 years. And now all the big tech companies, including Microsoft, Facebook, Apple, Google, they're all pushing towards this idea of the Metaverse. I feel like if there's any buzzword over the past few decades that I feel personally really invested in, really passionate about, that would be the Metaverse, because it literally encompasses everything that I am interested in. It is so multidisciplinary that I feel like this is like a perfect fit for me. To build even an MVP or a minimum viable product of the so-called Metaverse, we need engineers to build sophisticated hardware for the display and the rendering. We need developers to build the infrastructure that supports this large, huge, globally distributed scale to host, this virtual content, to enable us to live in this virtual world, and to write code for environment interactions, anchoring 3D objects in space, and synchronizing behaviors among people in the Metaverse. We also need artists to create those, 3D assets and to build the virtual world from scratch. We also need general content creators to tell compelling stories and build this interesting web of narratives in this Metaverse, right? So it's really a multilateral effort from all kinds of different disciplines, all different walks of life. And this is super interesting. That's the sort of things that I'm really interested in building. These are almost perfectly outlining everything that I really enjoy doing, fusing technology and art in the most beautiful and convincing way possible. So there you have it. At least at this point in my life, the Metaverse, that's the space I really want to get into and really want to make some meaningful contribution. So I think since this is sort of like a birthday vlog, I probably should like make some wishes for the next year, what I want to do before I hit freaking 27. I want to become a more interesting person. I really do not want myself to become more and more boring out of college and just become like a regular, just another white collar, software engineer toiling away at his desk, writing code, and talking about 401k on a daily basis. Like, that's not the life I want. That's not the kind of person that I want to be, in 3 to 5 years. I want to still have the same curiosity about the world, the insatiable desire to learn about different disciplines, to learn about the people, to learn about different cultures, just like I was in college, right? I want to still be that guy. I want to learn even more and build new things and create more content. That's what I want to do, ultimately. So that's about it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. By the time you see this video, I'm probably already 26. So 1 year older, 1 year wiser, hopefully. All right, that's about it. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.